How to Get Laid, Part 1. Do you suck with women? Are you a virgin or totally inexperienced with women? Do hot women intimidate you? Do you fear approaching women? Do you not understand how women work and what they want? Are you shy, insecure, a loner, or socially awkward? If any of these apply to you, then this multi-part series on how to get laid is exactly what you're going to need. This is going to be a no bullshit, highly practical guide of field-tested advice, not just theory, but what it really takes to turn this situation around for you in your life. This is the deep changes that you need to make to yourself and to your lifestyle in order to turn yourself into an attractive man and to get the kind of results that you would be happy with when it comes to dating. This guide is, of course, for straight, heterosexual men who are interested in attracting beautiful women. I'm assuming that if you're looking for some sort of other kind of advice, then I don't have experience in that. So now let's get to the meat of the topic. You want to get laid, of course. So let's think about this very practically. We can count almost on one hand all the ways that you can get laid. So let's do that, and let's talk about the pros and cons of the different approaches. So first, there's cold approach or pickup. We'll get back to that. Then there's social circle. That's the other way. Most people probably get laid through social circle. Then there's your work. Then there is celebrity and status. Then there is online game through various apps and websites. Then the sixth method would be using money and basically stuff like prostitution and so forth. All right? So that's basically it. There's not that many different ways to get laid. So let's cover the pros and cons of all these. So first we have cold approach. Cold approach is basically approaching a stranger that you don't know, a girl that has never met you before, striking up some sort of conversation in a flirty way, and then getting phone numbers, getting dates, and getting her into your bed. So there's that approach. You can do it during the daytime. You can do it during the nighttime. You can do it at malls. You can do it on the street. You can do it at cafes. You can do it at bars. You can do it at clubs. And basically wherever there are attractive women, this is the approach that I'm going to be mostly talking about. And the reason is because that's the approach that I've had the most experience with. And also in a certain sense, this is the most hardcore, the most direct approach. If you really want to understand the mechanics of attracting women and you really want to build up that skill set, this is the most direct way to do that. In a certain sense, it's one of the most flexible approaches here because it works all around the world. It works in every major city. It works regardless of language or culture pretty much. There are some variations. If you're in the Middle East and Saudi Arabia, maybe it doesn't work as well. But hey, even in the Middle East, they have nightclubs and so forth. But for the most part, it works around most of the world. And all you're willing to do to make this approach work is to move to a large city. You do need a large city. That's one of the downsides. If you live in a small town with 1,000 people, then a cold approach is not going to work very well for you. So you do need to move to a large city that has millions of people in it. But as long as you've got that and there's a decent nightlife in your city or decent day game opportunities in your city with cafes and streets and stuff like that, then you've got a lot of practicing opportunities. And what's great about this approach, perhaps the best thing about this approach, is that you can completely suck, have absolutely zero skills the way that I did when I started, and you can learn. And it doesn't matter if you're failing because you have so many opportunities and there's so much volume. That's what's so amazing about this approach, is that the volume, you're not in scarcity. You can be in abundance. Because even if you screw up one interaction with one girl, there's going to be another interaction with the next girl in 5 minutes or in an hour. And so it's okay. So there's cold approach. The other thing about cold approach is that you can get a lot of lays from cold approach. I know guys who have triple-digit lay counts from cold approach who have developed such consistent game that they can pull every other night. It's pretty amazing what can be done there. The next option is social circle. Social circle is how most people get laid. This is just from their social circle of friends. But the downside with this is that, first of all, social circle is more geared towards extroverts in the sense that to run a social circle, you need to be a social person and you got to be like constantly following up with that. It takes quite a bit of work to do social circle because you got to be texting your friends all the time, arranging dinner parties, arranging after parties, arranging outings to bars and to clubs and like doing all that sort of stuff and schmoozing and kind of being very indirect. So social circle is more indirect. You're building a circle of friends and you're only going to be sleeping with a small percentage of the people in your social circle. And one of the problems with social circle is that you have to be very social. You have to enjoy doing that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of maintenance. One of the downsides is that if you move cities, then you're going to lose your whole social circle. That's a huge downside. And you might have to move for work or just because you want to change the city that you're living in. So social circle can really tie you down. With cold approach, you can move to a different city and you're going to be getting great results the very next night you go out. You can move to a new city. You can even travel around the world to different cities every week. And you can be getting great results if your game is good enough, no matter what city you travel to. You can't do that with social circle. It's very geographic. Also with social circle, to truly have the kind of abundance and quality of women and dating partners that you would probably want to have if you have high standards like I do, is that you would need a very massive social circle of hundreds of people. So just think about the work it takes to manage that. That's not just something you can turn on and turn off. With cold approach, for example, you can go this weekend, do some cold approach, and then let's say you get a girlfriend, and then you can just stop doing cold approach for a few years until you lose your girlfriend. Then you can come back. Now, of course, your skills will be rusty, but still you can kind of turn it on and off. With social circle, you can't do that. It takes a long time to build up a social circle, and then you have to maintain it because if you stop maintaining it, then your friends will float off and do other things. You'll lose your social circle, and then you'll have to build it all back up again. The next option for getting laid is through work. In fact, I think a lot of people get laid through work. The problem, though, is it can be very risky and dangerous and limited to get laid through work. It really very much depends on the kind of work you have. The problem is that a lot of us have work where we're working from home or working in a cubicle or working in a very male-dominated company where you're not going to get laid and there's not very attractive women anyways. There are some jobs that do allow you to network with lots of people, maybe even women especially. If you can get that kind of job, then great. I mean, like bartenders, for example, bouncers, club promoters, if you're doing large public speaking events, if you're doing seminars, if you're doing business conferences and networking events where you're talking to hundreds of people, yeah, that can be a pretty decent way to get laid. But most work is not like that. And the problem here is that you're not going to change your whole career just to get laid. It's not a very good option, in my opinion. The next option is actually the best option, which is status and celebrity. Status and celebrity is the ultimate way to get laid, the ultimate way. The problem, of course, is that you need to be a real serious celebrity. You need to have serious status in order for this to work. And so the problem is that just very few people will actually have that level of status and celebrity necessary in order to get laid easily. And that is the easiest way to get laid. That's why rock stars are some of the most laid people on the planet, and they do the least work to get it. What's also nice about this is that you can kind of kill two birds with one stone here, because you're combining your life purpose, perhaps, with your dating strategy in such a way that just by, for example, being a great artist or a great musician or a great DJ or a great actor or whatever, you're doing that. And while you're doing that at the same time, you're creating dating opportunities for yourself because you're building your status and your celebrity. That's really, really efficient, a very efficient use of your time because you don't have to do two separate things. Or the next strategy is online games. So this is Tinder, OkCupid, Match.com, and other websites and apps like this. I've researched this quite a bit. I've experimented almost scientifically with this method as well. So what I've discovered about online game is that basically there is no online game. Online game boils down to your photos and your looks. So it's very much like a pyramid scheme, the whole online game system. Because, see, online game is designed for people who are extremely lazy, who don't want to do any work, who just want to click a few buttons and get laid And since everybody is lazy, everybody goes to online game. They want an easy solution to this problem. And there, it doesn't matter what you write in your profile picture or in your profile description. It doesn't really matter what kind of messages, clever messages you send to girls. They're judging you on your photos and on your looks. And so there's no way you're going to trick beautiful women to sleeping with you if you don't have the kind of classic, handsome, masculine looks that are required. I would say that if you're not in the top 20% of physical appearance in terms of guys, then you're not going to have great results with online game. It's going to be very frustrating. You're going to waste a lot of time. You're going to get depressed and miserable. Basically, the way online game is designed, it's like a pyramid scheme that is designed to funnel money from the siphon money, basically from the bottom 80% of guys. The dating app will suck up all their money. They will hardly get any quality matches. And then all the matches will basically go to the top 20% of handsome looking guys. And then those few matches that the bottom 80% get, they will be very low quality girls, not the kind of girls that you would want to seriously date or have a serious relationship with. Basically, online game is designed for suckers who are too lazy to actually go and socialize and meet women face to face because that's risky, that's scary, that's difficult. If you want something easy, then expect to be fleeced for that and to pay a cost for that. And then the final option is with money. If you have tons and tons of money, of course, you can use money to find gold digger women. You can buy prostitutes and escorts. There's these sorts of options, but this is probably the worst option for getting laid, because what you really want is not just to get laid, but you want deep intimacy with a woman. You want her to love you for you. You want her to be genuinely attracted to you, and money is not going to do that. Prostitution is not going to do that. So I recommend you just forget about that strategy entirely, and that's about it. So now we're going to talk about what it's really going to take for you to get good with women. Because if I just give you the techniques, they're not going to get you laid. The techniques only work when you have the right mindset, and then you have a larger framework within which those techniques are placed. So be patient here. We have to build up to it.